Going to look now. It takes a few minutes. Dun, dun, dun. Does it say it's streaming? Yep, it's on. Yes, we are streaming. So let me just put the link here. Difficulties. Okay. Discord. All right. Yes. Let me do a check. Archie, there seems to be a problem with the sound. There's no audio over the. Archie, you can hear me. I can hear you through Discord. Maybe we should put the Discord off. Hello, everyone.
Getting audio now through the YouTube. I've just changed my mic input. Just let me know if we're getting audio now. Because you know
Audio is good.
Are we getting it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Getting it. We've got it.
Thank you for bearing with me. Sorry about that, guys. I'll take a photo of these settings before I close my home studio. Cool. Apologies for the time waste then. I think we should soldier on, hey? Because there are people who may be waiting. So, guys, please let us know if there are any more technical problems like that. We'll address them as quickly as we can. But just to talk about materials. So, thank you for joining us. We're going to do some quick sketches. We're going to do 3 longer drawings. We are trying this format just to see how well it works, and because it would be quite nice to leave some videos of our activities online, and we want to try and promote some courses that we're going to roll out next year. So if you're interested in any like more formal courses and not just drawing occasionally, please let us know, and we'll put you on a mailing list and we'll let you know what and when. But it'll be along the lines of the kind of stuff we're going to practice tonight. So we'll have this event, and then we'll let you know later, probably just after the middle of January, we'll run more. But materials. So for the quick sketches, you can use just about anything that gives you a line, but you may want to use something like, so I'm using a Krita brush here that feels a lot like willow charcoal. And so nice thing about willow charcoal is you can get tone, whoopsie, and you can get line, and you can smudge it. I'm using very cheap paper there, obviously, but if you've got rough paper. So you may want to use something like that, or it could be a charcoal stick for the last drawing, which will be a human. Up to you. I'm also going to be using a brush that's a lot just like a rough pencil. So this is one of my favorite tools, the side pencil. And you can build up tone quite nicely, but you can also get some nice linear work going. So a very soft pencil. I think I waved at this at you before. Oh, where's a good spot? There. So like a 6B could work very well. And then I'm also going to use for the plant study. So you don't have to use the same tools, right? Like, and I didn't warn anybody, so you may not have those tools to hand. But I'm going to be using something like an ink brush. And so if you've got something for paper, it could be, you get smaller ones, of course, with cartridges. But I really like this kind of ink brush. Whoopsie. And I do draw with it quite a lot. So nice to get a swelling and tapering line. So don't feel bad if you don't have these materials to hand. But they are the kind of thing that I think if you want to draw quite a lot, it's the sort of thing that you want to have handy. And all 3 of those are actually fairly cheap. Drawing on the computer so you can see what I'm doing. In pretty much any drawing session, I think it's worthwhile to do quick sketching warm-ups. And so we're going to start with some figure sketching. If you're not used to drawing with us, this may be a little stressful. I want you to just not panic. I'm going to describe a couple of processes that I think really work, and I don't want you to worry about the results. The aim here with these quick warm-up sketches is just to get your eye in, to get the coordination between your hand and your eye going, and to get you thinking about shapes and not so much about left brain stuff, storytelling, etc. You just want to be in the world of shapes. So, quick figure sketching. I'm going to talk while I'm doing it. So there'll be some of you guys who are used to doing this, and so you won't need to hear anything much, but I'll talk over it, and I'll try to use 3 different kind of processes while I'm doing it. So I'll put the clock on you. Don't start drawing yet. I can't enforce this, of course, but just get your stuff together. Good try. Don't see that we have the tools. Okay, so I'll let you know when we're starting, and we'll do somewhere between 60 seconds and 90 seconds. It will be my secret until I tell you. And the way we're going to work, so I'm going to first work one way, which is a kind of classic gesture sketching approach. And so how does that work? Well, I'll show you while I do it. So sorry guys, if this is feeling a little cold to you, I'm going to start and then start the clock. Okay, so I'm going to make the first marks in color just so that you can see what I'm doing. A line of action is very useful. So a line that goes from the lead arm to the weight-bearing leg. And so what would that be in this case? And you don't have to get it perfect. It's just a way of describing the figure. So maybe that's a good line, but you might also think of that long leg extending. So a line of action might not look like much yet, but I can build from that. So now I am going to start the clock. And I'm using an approach which is quite typical. You've probably seen it taught before, or I'm getting a little bit of a lag on my pencil, which is to try to draw loose enclosed shapes to try to get a bit of flow between the shapes, thinking about negative spaces. I'm trying not to get bogged down into details because there just isn't time. I was going to try and get it onto the page, but I didn't. I'm not worrying about over or under drawing, so I'm like I'm drawing shapes through the figure, yes, so as if I'm drawing an X-ray. I'm really interested in that bit of shadow there, but we're at 40 seconds, and so I can't get too wrapped up in it. I'm using the wardrobe to help me define the form, and I'm building nice, loose, enclosed, three-dimensional shapes. Those of you who've been with us in Drawing Club will know that I've now made a strong mistake, which is I kind of finished a pose, but I've got 3 limbs off the page. So I should draw smaller. Okay. I'm going to give us 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did I mention that these are just warm-ups and we're not worrying too much about the way it looks? Okay, so let me go to the next one. Okay, so in this one, I'm going to take a slightly different approach, and I think the truth is in between. In the third one, I'm going to kind of combine them, but that slightly different approach is going to be that I'm going to draw a bit like contour sketching. And so how does contour sketching work? I'm going to let my eye trace over the figure, and I'm not going to worry too much about where it goes. I'm just going to try to be true to it, and I'm going to try not to. I might cheat a little bit, but I'm going to try not to lift the pencil, the stylus. So how does that go? I'm going to just demo it, and in fact you can draw as you please, but I'm going to start at the one end of the figure, and I'm going to just trace my way around it. I'm going to try to keep my eye on the figure themselves. I'm going to try to go inside the body, so wherever possible I'm going to describe the parts of the body with more than one mark. I'm not going to just go outside the external contour, and that way I'm going to build a figure, yeah? I'm letting myself be responsive to textures and things, and why I wanted to do that with this particular figure was look at the incredible shapes in her abdomen there, and coming off that twisting on her waist. So that was a nice thing to do contour style, and I'm still not going to get the whole figure on the page. That's a pity. We're just past the halfway point, so I'm trying to let my marks feel different, where there are different qualities of flesh or different values of tone, hard and sharp shadow. What's typical with this kind of sketching is that contour sketching is that getting the figure to line up perfectly isn't so easy. But you can see I get a slightly different result. It's maybe a touch less, I'm cheating there, a touch less coherent, a touch more loose, but at least it's warming up my eyes. And so 5 seconds left. 4, 3, 2, 1. And so that's the contour approach, really. And then in the last one, again, you can use whatever approach suits you. You've probably come across these ideas. But in this last one, I'm going to kind of combine the 2 approaches, and I'm going to try as hard as possible to get that figure on the page. So is everybody ready to do another one? I've got Gigi watching the chat for me. Gigi, how does it sound? Are people able to draw? Let us know if you've been able to sketch. They're too busy drawing. Fantastic.
I think so, definitely.
Good stuff. Okay, so let's do another one, a third one, and then please let us know if you got some drawings down. Okay, so we've started. I'm going to start with a bit of a line of action. I'm defining where my leg is. I'm going to actually just go into that other shape there, and now I'm going to start building forms. I've situated my figure, I've located where I want at least the kind of main masses to be, and now I'm going inside and looking for interesting contours. I'm not worrying when I'm making mistakes, I'm just drawing over it. I could erase fairly easily, but for time I'm just working over that. I'm using shadow lines to help define, so these a lot of the lines I'm drawing are shadow contours, yes? And I'm finding things like joints. Oh man, I think I'm still not getting it on the page. Okay, nearly. Come back in January to see if I can get it on the page occasionally. Alright, so that's that other foot. If I'm not careful, I'm going to run out of time. We've got about 20 seconds left. Oh, I have not got this leg right. I created a challenge for myself going up here. What I need to do is finish up the top part of the body. I have the foreshortening there on that torso, and then that arm is shorter as well. So in this kind of sketching, I'm not doing any measuring, nothing too permanent. It's all quite quick and loose and light. And that's 3 times 90-second sketches. If you got 3 things down, well done everybody. Please let us know if you got some sketching. Oopsie, messing up my interface. But just because we're at 5 past 7 already, let's talk about the next exercise. It does bear a little bit of explanation. Okay, so I'm just going to save this puppy and then close. That was my little demo file. This also can go. Nah. So this is the human we will be doing, but we're going to work our way up, right? Like mineral, vegetable, and then animal. I think that's the best way to go. But more importantly, these are different kind of levels of difficulty or require different levels of thought. Ooh, I forgot something. Hang on a second, I have a prop. So I ended up taking a photo or free pick, but hang on, let's just hide my stopwatch. I just need to see if I've got this on camera. Yeah. So the Bialetti coffee maker actually is one of the top 100 product designs of the 20th century, according to, I think it was some design guide. And there is something quite lovely about it. It's very effective. I'm not using this one myself at the moment. I've broken the seal. But works really well on a gas stove, very effective coffee maker, but also people find it beautiful. Now, you might not find it beautiful yourself, it's a humble thing, but it does present some nice angles to draw. So we're going to construct these 2 objects in space. It's going to require us to understand a little bit about perspective or practice the principles of perspective. And so here's how I would propose we go about it. I think the first thing to do, and I think I'm going to do a very quick demo and then we'll start the clock. Let me just get a more attractive demo color. So, first thing we're going to do is I'm going to do some structural work, yeah? And it's quite easy for me because I've got the picture right next to me. Sometimes I'm not that clear. So you want to situate the object on the picture plane, yeah? If this is the margin of my image, I want to use roughly the same composition. You can look at negative values to see how that thing is going to take up space. You don't have to draw anything very convincing yet, but just mark it out on the picture plane. And then I think you want to think about what perspective you're being presented. So just bear in mind this is just a quick demo, and I'll let you guys start in a moment. So there's one big indicator of perspective, or there's one big angle that we're seeing is this floor plan here, which is a table. So the grain of the table or the planks of the table go this way. But if you want to understand the kind of perspective that you're dealing with, I think, don't you agree that there's probably a vanishing point somewhere off here, and that the table is actually progressing towards us, or slanting towards us at about that angle. Now, identifying roughly that angle is going to be useful for us to handle the perspective on all of these little indentations here, these different faces. It's also going to help us, so I'm going to draw this in here. Drawing a cylinder like a cup can be quite challenging, and it's also going to help us because we can locate that cup in space and think about its perspective by drawing in a little bit of a block, and then we can build a cylinder out of it. So with that preamble underway, there will be steps, right? So we're going to take 15 minutes for this drawing. You want to get all your major planes down. You want to define them with line first. Some artists like to go straight in with tone, but I would suggest for this, you get a rough linear. Then we'll start working on some tonal areas and getting some values down. So I'm going to start the clock now. Your first task is going to be like whatever size sheet of paper or file you're working on. If you work on a loose sheet of paper, I think it's worthwhile drawing in a margin that is similar to the margin that you are seeing in the photograph here. And then thinking about what is the balance of positive and negative in the picture, which are the how much of this pictorial space is being taken up by the objects. You can see I've got this slightly wrong, but I'm building it up. And then you can start using perspective, very rough kind of perspective, to think about how those planes will go. So are we looking down at the BLAT point? I think we are looking slightly down at it, aren't we? Hard to tell with the raised surface, but I think we're not looking level at it. Hey, the camera is probably this much higher than the object. Okay, so I'm going to go to a new layer in my case, but I could just rub this out or turn it monochrome, and I'm going to start working in some of these faces. With this kind of object study, don't be ashamed to count, like how many can you actually see? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 facets, and I can already tell that I've got one of them far too narrow. So with object studies, you plan stuff, be prepared to accept that you can be wrong the first time. And that, I have to say, is a lovely thing about drawing, is that if you want to do a good drawing of something, it forces you to look in a much more assertive and curious way than I think normal lazy looking, where you're just wanting a cup of coffee. So I'm thinking about, now I'm beginning to think about the exact shapes that I'm seeing there, very like precise ergonomic handle shape. I don't know if I'm getting it perfect. And in fact, perfect isn't quite the goal. What you're after is, with each mark that you're making, building up a viable structure so that you can develop that. Okay, we're at like the 2.5 minute mark, so you must be careful about time a little bit. If you're working well, you should be kind of at the point I was at with blue marks by now. Okay, so how many facets can I see on the bottom as well? I can also see 4, but they're not arranged in exactly the same way. And then they flare out, don't they? So getting those angles right is quite difficult. I don't think for these kind of exercises you want to get out measuring tools or, I mean, of course, those are also possible on a computer. I think what we're trying to do is develop our skill in getting it right to the eye. Mine is not exactly right. But useful. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my cup into a cylinder. So something about cylindrical shapes. It's a kind of a truism in drawing that using the block to create a cylinder is actually super useful, because what you can do is you can now attach the edges of the ellipse that you should see to the edges of the block. And I've got a cup that is probably slightly too small, but in other ways quite viable. That angle's a bit extreme there. Take that down. And then this angle here. So this is a basic tip on perspective, probably you're mostly aware of, but if you're looking at something like a cup here, this angle here, or this curve, I should rather say, has got to be more extreme than this curve. Because if a curve were exactly at eye level with us, maybe there was a cup there, it would be flat, yes? So it's got to be getting more and more extreme as it goes down the picture plane. Okay, and then I'm using the eraser on the brush just to thin up that line a little bit. And I'm getting something that's starting to look like that part. Okay, clip some things. We're at just over 5 minutes. You should just be roughing the form in. So I'm hoping you're catching up to me. Most of you will be younger and therefore should be faster. Or will be eventually. Okay, so there's the spout. So now I'm thinking about, because it's a not wholly symmetrical, but in some way symmetrical object. I'm thinking about, okay, comparing the spout to the handle. How far does the spout come out? So I think the spout comes out to about that far. And it looks like, I think I may have exaggerated the length of the handle slightly, but I'm going to use it as a measure anyway. And so that spout shape actually comes out, I think, further than I'd first drawn it. Yeah? I've got an area there I need to correct. That's pretty normal. It's starting to look like the object that won all those awards. And now I'm going to start to hit the problem of what kind of choices to make in terms of tone and surfacing, because I do want to get a bit of tone in, but I don't want it to be too time consuming, firstly, and secondly, I don't want it to compete too much with the line that I've made. So I'm going to make my brush bigger, and then I can push less hard and get a kind of a mid-tone in. So if you're working on paper, this would be where you want to use the side of your pencil or a softish tool. And what I'm looking at now is the relative tones of these different faces. So apart from that, there's a lovely reflection, I think it's of that cup there. But apart from that, I'd say this is the darkest area, yeah? So I'm getting that in first. And then these facets aren't super clear here. And so as I'm going, I'm just building and comparing tone. I'm not slavishly copying what I'm seeing, I'm trying to build an interpretation of it, and then I'm also finding errors of angle here. I'm trying to move away from like the kind of linear drawing I had before, so now I'm trying to get tone to describe the masses, yeah? Where's the darkest value in the whole thing? I think it may be this area here. I'm intentionally working quite small to keep me fast, yeah, and I can't tell you how strong the temptation is to make a much smaller brush, but I'm trying to resist that temptation because this drawing's not about getting into like tiny details. It's about discovering and rendering the main masses. And then I've decided to just accept for time. I've got quite a big error on this cup here. Votes in the chat. Should I fix it using digital trickery or should I just leave it as it is? Could you tell me if anybody has a vote? Teacher's busy drawing.
I'm drawing.
Fair enough. I think I might just fix it. It's naughty. Okay, we're at just past 9 minutes. I'm hoping that
We've got digital trickery.
Oh, did we get a vote for digital trickery?
Yeah, Zena said digital trickery.
Excellent. Good vote. Plus 10. Okay, so, whereas on paper I'd have had to faff around quite a bit. Here, I can just enlarge scale, and I think it needs to be a little wider, yeah? And in fact, maybe even a little more like so. Yeah, I think I'm in the 90% zone there. Close enough. Thank you for your vote. Appreciate it. Okay, and so I'm going to hide my blue marks now. Bet you can't do that on paper, but I hope you weren't drawing with a blue pencil. And I'm going to start, not that I use line where I need to or want to, where it's appropriate, but I'm more trying to now lay out tonal values. And then something that you're welcome to do, I haven't paid much attention to it, but that lovely fabric pattern in the background actually can make a nice graphic element. There's so many different ways of treating things like this. I think for me, I don't want it to compete. I'm going to just put in kind of quite light marks. I'm not even really trying to copy the pattern. I just want to get a sense of that there's something behind that coffee pot. And I may even like break it up, soften it. So that's kind of the feeling I want to have between the surfaces. Bit of drop shadow, yes. And then what I might do on this word is go back in with an eraser, and you could do this with a patty rubber or a sharp eraser as well, and carve out some of the texture. So I'm not worrying to kind of indicate wood texture too much in this first pass. A little bit. I'm going to go back and get it in the erasing and a kind of second pass. So I'm just laying out the rough tonal relationships, and then I'll go in and clean it up. So, yeah, I think that looks okay. I'm going to erase in some whoopsie, it's not a highlight. I'm going to erase in some highlights. And so that's a lovely thing if you're working with charcoal or soft pencil. You can really create some lovely, fairly easily create some lovely textural effects by working in negative. I would also flip my screen maybe, you know, like I can rotate, but it's going to be too disturbing for everyone else who's drawing the pot, right? So I won't do that. What I'll do is sorry, I did. But then I decided not to. I'm going to use another pencil which has just got like a sharper tip, and I'm going to put in some textural marks. So we're at 13, close to 13 minutes. I don't have much time for mucking around. How's everybody doing with their drawing? in terms of the way the evening is going, we're a little over. So I think we should move on from this one at the 15-minute mark. Sorry, that's our bad. And so, with your permission, we're going to leak a little bit over, because by my calculations, we'll need, yeah, at least another. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the plant one quicker, and then we can be about half an hour or 40 minutes in the session. Because I know some people may have plans for later. Whoopsie. So I don't want you to get too stuck. So I'm just using that sharper pencil to get some harder marks in.
Archie,
Yes.
could you make your video feed a little smaller so that we can see the image behind? Because it's covering your drawing.
Oh, this. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Good point. I hadn't thought of that. And in fact, you don't need me there. Yeah. How's that, guys? My apologies.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Good point. Thanks, Gigi. Okay, so we've got like a minute or so in it. I don't think we want to take too long here. And so I'm going to just put in those marks. Whoops, back to my trusty side pencil. And then please let us know in the chat, so once the 15 minutes is gone, how far you got with that and whether you managed to get the main blocking in. I'm just curious to see, because when we've been working together in Drawing Club, we've only been doing very quick sketches. Hey, like we go to 3 minutes if we're feeling very generous. How many people got their pot in? So I'm just now checking for final values. There isn't time to put in a lot of detail, so I'm looking for where there are interesting shifts in tone, and I've completely forgotten about this bit. And I'm just trying to get a sense of an object that feels solid with lighting. Okay, and in 15 minutes, I don't think you want to make goals too big. Okay, we're over 15. Please, guys, I'd love you to post these drawings. It'd be so helpful. And then if you want to indicate if you want me to do some work over, although having seen my drawing, you might think, I'll just trust my own devices. It wasn't that bad. Cool, so next one. Yeah, you can see mine's a little wonky. Let's go to a plant, and we're going to make this a 10-minute one. And then that'll give us some time leaking over to do the figure. So for this, you don't have to, but I'm going to use an ink brushy type of tool. Need to be on a brush. So I'm going to use a brush that does this. Excuse me. So a nice rough brush. And then, because there's a lot of plant here, yeah, I will stop zooming in and stuff. So I won't move it around. I would say decide which of these two you want to do. Does that make sense? There's kind of a plant here and kind of a plant here. You decide which one you want to do. I don't think there'll probably be time to do both. I do suggest that for this we work in a fairly loose kind of contoury style. Let's explore mark making. Let's think about shapes. So if you've got a range of tools, I'd say use a fine liner or use a, I hope you don't all have brush and ink available, but some of you may have a brush pen. Use a tool like that, and then let's see how we go. Exploration of mark making. I know it's quite a small picture. Gigi, do you think I should zoom in a little bit on the picture?
We definitely can. That would make it easier.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do that, and then I'm giving myself kind of a little space to draw, but that's absolutely fine. It will be good for me. 10 minutes. I'm not gonna. If anybody catches me moving the picture around, shout at me. I'm not aware of a way I can lock the picture. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one over here. Haha, we've started. Oh, yeah. It might be a good idea to map out the whole thing first. You'd be welcome to, just put in some light lines and then go in greater detail. I'm feeling a bit reckless, and so I'm just waiting in. Not going to get all those fine hairs, but so when I'm doing this kind of work, and I've done quite a lot of plants, and it's not something I was great at early on in my career. Like I'd struggle to know how to deal with them. So I've realized since then what part of the problem is if you like with a human figure, you can kind of learn all the parts and learn how they bend and twist and stuff. And humans, they vary a lot and their poses vary, but they have a fixed morphology. I mean, of course, there are exceptions, right? But in general, 2 arms, 2 legs, 5 toes, that kind of thing. But plants have, even in the same species, like highly variable arrangements and patterns. There are some principles, right? Like the two-thirdsness, the sort of Fibonacci sequence, and the way leaves are arranged, and that there's a definite kind of two-thirdsness that you can identify. But I think you have to be much more sensitive to, much more alert to the specific relationships in a plant. Or you have to accept that you're not going to get them perfect, but you're getting the essence of the plant. And I think either of those two, depending on what you're trying to do with your artwork, either of those two are useful. Because you might not be needing to draw a specific plant, you might be needing to generate your own for some layout or make up a completely fictional plant. But here's a tip that I think is worth sharing, is that when I am presented with things like the spray of leaves, like lovely complicated aloe leaves, what I have found works really well when you're doing it without forcing it is just like with fingers, draw the front ones first. Yeah, it's a lot easier to, especially if you're doing ink drawing, it's a lot easier to build backwards. Yes, because then you know what gaps you've left. So front fronds first. That's a rule. Well, a good principle. Because I'm sure you guys will also have this experience. I definitely find, yeah, at a certain point it's easy to get lost. So what I'll do is, this guy here is my sort of hero leaf. He's the one that's pointing most directly at me. I haven't drawn him perfectly, but when I get lost, I go back to him. Or her, not sure. And so we're at about 4 minutes. Because I'm giving myself a little space, I'm moving fast. Excuse me. I may have to do some skyline, put in some clouds. Something I love about this creature brush that I'm using is you can get a very sharp fine line, and then when you push hard you get something cloudy, which is a bit like if an ink brush doesn't have a lot of ink on it. Does that make sense? Like a dry brushy thing. And it's quite, I don't know, I like it. I might be overusing it. And there's another one in behind there. We're at almost 6 minutes. I might have to do another one. Okay, tell you what. Oh no, whoops, sorry.
Actually, we can't see where you're drawing, eh?
Oh no. Oh, yeah, you're just looking
But
at
you
the
can't
wrong.
move it because now.
Yeah, because now you're drawing the drawing, yeah. So I'll tell you what, I'll keep my drawing a secret and then I'll show you. Ah, yeah. Good point. Can you guys see enough of the plant though?
Yeah, we did. Well,
Ah, yes, I'm sorry guys, did I mention this is the first time we're doing this? I'd forgotten that there's actually like a crop on the margin. So you're not seeing exactly what I'm seeing on my screen, and I keep forgetting that. My apologies. Is that a decent representation of the thing?
I think so.
We might be losing. Please complain in the chat if you're losing bits of plant, yeah? Because I can always zoom out. Maybe that's better. Can I keep it like that for now, guys? Then at least you got a fighting chance of seeing the whole plant. My apologies. And then what am I missing? I think, oh yes, this one. Maybe it's worth saying, those of you that are in Drawing Club, please we would love to get your opinion, like actually on either server. Please post your artwork on that ArcP picture server, because we'd like anyone who maybe hasn't already joined us in Drawing Club to see it. But I would love to get your feedback on how it is working this way. We we're thinking about stuff we want to do next year. Be nice if you joined us and if people enjoyed it. So there's something to be said for this YouTube live stream, but hey, every time I do this kind of thing, it's a new problem. Yeah, it's good. Gotten used to Google Meets.
Yeah, YouTube is different.
Yeah, I mean, for running classes and things, I mean, there's something to be said for Google Meets and Google Classroom. I don't have a problem with it, but so leaving a record of what you've done is a bit of a hassle. Of course, you can do recordings easily, but you'll end up with these massive files, and then like it's kind of unwieldy. And then the recordings, it's like there's no interaction with the recording, so kind of some benefit. Yeah, it's good to try these things. So we're at 9 minutes. I hope that you've been able to draw okay. Sorry about the cropping. For your interest, this is the only photograph which I took myself. And it's not because it's a great photo that I'm using it, it's just these particular aloes are lovely. And I like them being a little bit. I've done a lot of like flowering aloe artwork, and I quite like them when they are past their prime. Like me. Little grizzled, but still interesting. So, Gigi, for your interest in the background, that is the pool for which I was trying to fix the pipe, which we haven't yet managed to do.
Ah,
Yeah.
that is a very nice pool. Oh, that's the
It's
sea in the
nice.
back.
Yeah, and the sea in the background, yeah. So that pool is mountain water. And it is full again, but it's not, yeah, we still need to actually fix it. Anyway. So for that reason and others, I have lots of photographs of that area. Most of them are like our pipes, so I'll spare you those. Um, okay, 10 minutes. Did everyone finish? Let us know in the chat. Okay, I think there was a generous amount of time. Okay, I'll try to be more careful about the cropping here. I'll double check on. So we're gonna go straight into our last one, guys, and then totally up to you what materials you want to use. Oopsie. No, I didn't want to select anything. I'm using my hotkeys even. Trying to remember to save these before I close them. There we go. Okay, and so GT found us lots of lovely life model reference actually, which will pay off in all kinds of ways. But what I like about this image, and I'm gonna full screen it. Let me just change tools quickly. I think it'll give us an opportunity. Oh, sorry, brush. It'll give us an opportunity to work quite loosely and tonally. Does that make sense? So you've got a choice of how to crop it, but I think just for screen space, okay, so I'm looking at the YouTube screen. No, that's gonna be too small. Hey, how's that? Yeah, I don't think we need to get the whole tall figure in. I hope that's okay for everyone. What this presents us with is a lovely opportunity, and I'm going to just diagram it in. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to diagram it in with blue. So there's lovely areas of different tone, right? So great range of tone here on her back. And then I think similarly, really interesting tones in the white area there. So what I'd like you to do, and we don't get to do this in Drawing Club too often because we have such quick sessions, right? But let's say 20 minutes for this. It's pretty much 8 o'clock here on my computer. And what I suggest you look for is varieties of tone. So I'm going to crush that to black now. Gray, sorry, and I'm going to go, okay, well, what's the darkest tonal area in the drawing? So I think the darkest area is that armpit there, or maybe the hair. Yeah. Can you see me cheating again there? Okay, so having chosen those two spots, I'm going to work towards those tones. My marks are not as dark as what I'm seeing in the image, but I can now build up and down from that tone. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to decide on a tonal range for the, I'm not sure if it's a robe or a dress or just a piece of cloth. And what I'm going to do here, just to the side of my drawing, you don't have to do this, but just for demonstration's sake, I'm just going to set up a little value scale. What's the lightest kind of mark that I want? What's the second lightest? What's a kind of medium dark mark? And what's my darkest value? Does that make sense? And so it just allows me, when I'm thinking about how I transcribe the tones, what am I going to choose roughly the tone to be? Does that make sense? So people sometimes talk about like, yeah, value segmentation. It's a useful trick for all kinds of color artwork and tonal artwork. As I say, you don't have to do it, but think in terms of proportions of dark and light. Okay. So that's once you've laid in your rough structure, yeah, and then you can build a nice three-dimensional form. You'll notice that the lighting is coming from sort of our side on the right. Eh? You can tell from the highlights on the shoulder blades and maybe on her ear and on the hair. Yeah. So we can build a nice form that way. I think that's enough input. Let's start a drawing. What did we say? 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to put in a few more details. Oh, shit, sorry. I won't do that. It's such a strong instinct. Okay, Classic. Gigi, if you catch me zooming in again, just go, no. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I will.
Thank you. Probably makes it a bit more fair for you guys that are working on paper. I can't like cheat my way in and pull off a nice detailed ear. Yeah, I've got to actually just make a tiny little mark. So I'm finding something's wrong with my rough structure, but fair enough, I can work it out. So there's a big difference in the height of those trapezius muscles. So the muscle going from neck to shoulder. That mark is way too dark. But what I'm actually just looking for is that contour. And then I really do need to make that arm a little longer. It's not super long, in reality. But I think that gives us something. Ah, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I shouted at myself using your voice.
There we go.
Maybe we should use the gong for that, like the hectic gong.
That would work.
Okay, so I think we got something like the shape that we need. I'm going to start blocking in a bit of tone. Something I both like about this brush and find quite frustrating is it's quite hard to control exactly what tone you get out of the mark. So sometimes it really annoys me, but in general it's been good for me. Like if this were an actual tool, I imagine it would be like super greasy. You could just go on forever smearing it around. Okay, so where was that highlight there? It's about there. I can see now that so I'm looking at the contour face. How big is that shape there? It's really little, huh? So of course, because I can sample those tones, they're kind of paying off quite directly. You don't have to do that, but it can be useful. So what I'm looking for here now is all of the dark, so like 15% brightness and lower values. And I'm trying to lay those in. That shape is obviously not right. Very strong line there, which I'll get rid of. So it's not against the rules to have linear elements in your drawing, but I think for this, for a tonal study, you want the line not to be dominant, yeah? And you want to connect the line to areas of tone where possible. So you can see where I've got a line that really reads like a line, I try to turn it into a shadow element rather. So carving away with an eraser really can help. Please let us know if there's any, because it would be a bit of a surprise to, you know, you may not have had the materials that you ideally would have, or you may have struggled with your materials. Let us know if anything gave you particular trouble or what worked for you. If I'm drawing on paper, and I'm like generally quite frugal, like I don't like to have a lot of fancy stuff, but and I don't do a lot of artwork pencil on paper like as a thing, you know, like I always usually scan it and use it. But I always have like a sort of Faber-Castell type of eraser and then a putty rubber as well for doing this kind of thing on paper. Not too expensive. And then just a note about hair, and it's something I struggled with a lot when as a young artist. I don't have a lot of hair, and you know, it's something you quite want to get into illustration. I like beautiful hair. Here's a truism: is can you see I've made marks that are like strands, but actually I shouldn't. I should rather mass in the tones first and be sure I'm getting them right, and only then allow myself to put in some texture. That makes sense. More important that the overall volume of shadows and highlights makes sense than that you get the textures right, at least to begin with. It's great if you can get them together, but I think that's now starting to look like something volumetric, and there'll be much darker areas there. I'm struggling to get subtle details like that ear shadow, or I can just see eyelash, but it's gonna be, yeah, I quite nailed it, but that's gonna have to stay like that. And then still gotta clean up this neck a little bit. That's more like it. So with a lovely thing with tonal drawing, especially with like charcoal and erasing, is you can kind of carve out shapes like a painter does. Don't be afraid to try that. And then I can see also the shapes are not right there. What's happening under that chin there? Also very small marks. Okay, so I've gotten sucked into details a little bit there, but I should really keep going with the tones on the overall back. And here's a question I have for you, is like, which planes of the back are pointing towards that light source? Pretty much a kind of two verticals there on the collarbones, and then a sort of rectangular, it's almost like a book shape here. Hey?
Yeah.
I might switch over to my trusty side pencil in a bit, just because I'm struggling to control the tones here just with the tool that I'm using. But let's get as much out of it as I can first. not terribly far off, not perfect. And then that. So I'm going to do something here which is kind of a cheating, but it is a very classic art, like, not just classic art trick, it's a classical art trick, which is better. So you'll have probably seen this. It's the idea of creating fringing, right? So on the right-hand side, the cloth, dress or whatever it is, material, robe that the woman has got is lighter than the background, yes? Not on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side. And so I'm putting just on this right-hand side a kind of soft area of shadow just to let the highlights on the white here pop out. Does that make sense? And I'm sure you'll have seen tricks like that. You're welcome to do the same kind of thing. You could, of course, put in like a whole lot of flat tone, but A, don't want to spend the time, and B, would I think it would be too distracting, yes? So instead I'm doing that. I'm using this brush about as fine as it'll go. And I'm beginning to like vary my kind of mark making a bit to try to get different effects. But I think fairly soon, switch tools. Yeah. Excuse me, there might be a slight screen flicker. Sorry about that. Back to my friend trusty side pencil. A bit hard, yeah. So I'm trying not to be too precise about shapes. I'm trying to model with light. And I'm sure like a lot of you guys, those of you I know, doing animation, illustration type of work, character art or line work that's going to be colored later, yes? You know, just sort of pencil, ink, and color process familiar from comics and 2D animation. This is quite a different way of working from that. Hey, it's much more painterly. And I don't work this way super often, but this was actually the way I was originally trained, and I think you want to be able to work in both ways. I think, because they're both like legitimate ways of seeing form. So, I mean, I love line art, and I do a lot of line art type of drawing. But every now and then it's good for me to just actually, you know, like sculpt it out. And it can allow you to see things in quite a different way. Like what, as a perceptual issue, like as an issue of how you look at things, it's good to be able to flick through both. You know, like if you're looking at a scene and you're imagining, you know, what you might turn it into in your own artwork or for a project, I think you want to be able to kind of distinguish between shape areas using line, but also tonal masses that are sculpted out. Both are good. So we're at 15 minutes. What I'm hoping is, because it's a fairly simple subject, so what I'm hoping is that you've covered everything. You've got some kind of tone down everywhere, and you can be kind of building from that. got a couple of, you can see there's some proportions and shapes and things that are not exactly right. But I'm going to try not to fuss about that. What I'm rather interested in is just seeing where I can find areas of tonal variation. Like that's far too much of a cheat. I need something on the forehead. Yeah, that'll do me. Ah, no, sorry, wrong color. So without getting too kind of pedantic, I'm going to try to there's a lovely bit of bounced light on her kind of rib cage going into armpit there on the left. And I want to try and preserve that. And then this arm gets a lot darker. Digital tools are so cool, but something I kind of miss at this moment is if I were on paper, I could have my eraser and a tissue in my left hand and my charcoal in my right hand, and I'd be able to use my left hand to erase while I draw with my right hand, if that makes sense. And it might sound quite crazy, but it's actually like a lovely way of building stuff up. But I've just got my computer. It's a lovely computer. And Krita is lovely. So there's some just little areas. And so something that I'm trying for within the limits of the scale that I've set up is, I'm sure you guys will have thought about this, but is a nice variation of surface. So there are big broad areas of similar tone or tonal transition, like sort of gradients from one thing to another, and then there are going to be little areas of quite tight shadow. And I think especially in realism, even in some stylized work, being aware of the variety. So what kind of values do I have in my picture? Where do I see them? How do their shapes work? How they're built up? And what is the like frequency of them? All of those things that like you generally after variety there, you know, so you don't want like a whole lot of little sharp marks. Ah, bugger, sorry, I'm messing up the picture. I'm just going to take it left there so you can see what I'm doing on the dress. So say for instance, we discovered this in your painting studies, hey Gigi, how to do a crease, yeah?
Yes,
On cloth, and that was both
very exciting.
both working on it together, and we found some kind of nice examples. So a feature of a crease is that it's going to have, I'm going to just do it on the side here nice and big. There's going to be a shadow, there's going to be highlight area which I'm leaving loose there, and there's going to be both like a sharp crease shadow there, so I'm putting in that sharp mark there, and then there'll also be, whoopsie, what am I doing there? Oh yeah, then there'll also be a mark that constitutes the edge of the crease. Make sense? So best to not I'm not doing it very well there. Best not to try to do it with one mark. That makes sense? It's going to be a combination of marks. Oh, we're at our 20 minutes mark, speaking of which. I tell you what, let's sneak in an extra 2 minutes. How's that, guys? Extra 2 minutes?
Yes.
I'm happy to do that. How close is everyone? Or do you think you want more time? Put your requests in the chat. I'm sorry, I just lost my tool. But I imagine because it's 20 past 8 already, you probably all burnt the supper. Connor's soup will be overcooked. Oh shit, sorry. Without thinking. And so, yeah. Let's say 2 minutes from now. But I'm really glad that you guys joined us. Thank you. I know it's a bit of a weirdie. Yeah, as I mentioned in my email to the Drawing Club guys, maybe what would be useful is please in the chat, Drawing Club peeps, let us know when you're going to be drawing again in January. I think it was an open question whether it should be the 7th or the 14th. And then, like I said, we'll run another event like this, a draw-along type of thing. Yeah, sometime after the 15th of Jan, probably between the 15th and the 22nd. I think that's a week. But I'd also like to say, if you've been enjoying your sketching, please keep it up over the break. I won't be running sessions, but I'm going to be drawing the whole way through. I've got an animation to finish. I've got some art animation I want to do, so I'll be working on paper and on my computer the whole way through. You're welcome to feel jealous. But yeah, I hope you've been enjoying doing the drawing. And is there anything yet on the Discord? I haven't. I'm gonna have a look now. I'll look, Gigi. You keep drawing.
Okay, thank you, Archie.
No, that is asking a bit much. Fair enough, but please do post on the Discord. And I'm sorry if it's confusing, if it's different from my channel, which you might be used to. We'd like other people to see what we're doing here, and then I've just got too much old artifactual stuff on that Discord that I can't go through, so we decided to make a new channel. The Drawing Club people will use probably both until it gets too confusing. Yeah, nobody's posted yet. Please do post when you got a chance. We'd really like to see your artwork, especially, but not only, if you're not a Drawing Club regular. But that's our 2 minutes. Let us know if you got finished. We'll stay on the chat for a bit, but I'm going to hide the picture. And maybe let's just show you this, because so I'm going to share very quickly some of the Drawing Club stuff. So like sometimes I get like I wonder, like, do I really do enough work? Like, what if I'm spending all my time doing? But you know, then I think this. So it's not gonna. This is not aimed at like particular work. But how's this for a cool thing? I was going through my folders of Drawing Club stuff. We had 50 sessions. Thank you. It's been so great. I count. I just like roughly thumb guesstimated my total. I have got at least 240 extra drawings I wouldn't have had otherwise out of Drawing Club. I can show you actually kind of almost more accurately what I mean. This is the last 2 months or 3 months of Drawing Club. The other ones I've put in a filing cabinet because I can't handle them. Yeah. And so, just for what it's worth, maybe something you should do if you've been drawing for a while and not paying attention to this is just put all your drawings together. Don't like stare at them for too long. Track progress, hey? I think you'll find that it is there. Yeah. But let me not give a long speech. I think that's enough talking for an evening. Hey Gigi, am I forgetting anything? Please, if you'd like to be on the mailing list, send us your details so we don't have them already. Those of you that we got your deets, we will. So Drawing Club will let you know what date we're starting, and then we'll also let you know about any live draw-alongs on YouTube. We now, I think, have got the hang of it, hey?
Yes.
Only made two bad mistakes there at the beginning. Thanks everybody. Have a lovely evening, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the year. If you're doing Christmas, have a great Christmas. All the best for next year. I hope that you are, you have a peaceful time. You're able to be creative. That'll be nice for 2025. Hey,
Definitely.
cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. I see a couple of Discord comments. Awesome. Have a lovely evening. How do I cut my stream now? If I just stop it on Ob Studio, what happens?
It should.
Okay, I'm going to stop streaming, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.